all the men of the village had their way with purity, and Kristokene was her next target. She heard a rustling sound from within the bush behind her. Frightened by the sound, Tamara looked behind to see what could have made that unsettling sound. To her horror, once upon a time, a baby girl was born into a highly traditional family in the village of Oke. Her father, Mazi Enibele, carried his newborn child to present her before his idol, a tradition done to show respect and honor to the deity that blessed them with a child. The baby girl was given as an offering to the gods. Mazi Enibele and his wife Oreva were overjoyed to have been blessed with a child by the gods. They had so much high expectations for her, believing that she was a blessing given to them by the idol they served. They named her Tamara. Mazi Enibele and his family shared the same compound with his elder brother, Mazi Azazi. Mazi Azazi was treated as the head of the entire family. He had no wife or children of his own because he was a ruthless fellow that no woman wanted to marry. He was known for his wickedness. He made all the important decisions and controlled all the family affairs. Tamara grew up to be a happy and helpful child, but there was something rather odd and different in Tamara. Contrary to her parents' expectations, she had a natural love for God and was always seen at the only church in their village. Tamara would always sneak out to go to church from a tender age, to the disappointment of her parents, who were conk traditionalists. They were completely against it, but nothing they could do could stop the little girl. Many years later, Tamara had grown into a devout Christian sister who spent most of her time going to church and lived an exemplary godly life that other villagers admired. She was so dedicated to God, she did not even have the time for the men in the village trying to woo her. Any parent would be happy and proud to have such an obedient and God-fearing daughter like Tamara, but the opposite was the case in Tamara's family. Her wicked uncle was against her going to church, and he would frustrate her efforts to serve God. Soon, Mazi Enibele, Tamara's father, fell terribly ill. After a few weeks, his condition began to grow worse. One day, he noticed his hands began to swell up suddenly. He would spend each day in so much excruciating pain. His daughter, Tamara, believed so much in the healing power of God she possessed. According to what her Bible told her, she would pray for his hands and healing, reassuring her father that there was no sickness that God could not heal. After Mazi Azazi returned from consulting their oracle to find out what the cause of his brother's ailment was, he rained down terror on Tamara. He was told that the reason for his brother's ailment was because Tamara had refused to perform the alusi, a tradition where the female child would redress and repaint the idol of the family, and the idol was waiting for her since she was offered to eat from her childbirth. Tamara had sworn that she would never perform that ritual, even if it meant they would take her life. She was not going to compromise her faith in God by soiling her Christian life because of a raggedy ancient tradition that held no real power. Tamara told her uncle, who promised to deal with her if his brother dies because of her stubbornness and nonsense faith in God. Her mother, Oreva, pleaded with her daughter to please perform the ritual to save her father's life and ease him of his daily pain. You can still be a Christian. It does not stop you from serving your God. Please, my daughter, just do this to save your father, her mother pleaded. But Tamara was resolute. She believed strongly that her God would heal her father and that the idol had no say over her father's life. She continued to pray for him in the name of God. Her father pleaded with his daughter to please save him and perform the ritual, but Tamara reassured him that he would be healed. Nothing will happen to you. Over my watch, Papa, she said. A few weeks later, Mazi Enibele's condition grew even worse. Tamara could no longer bear to see her father in that awful condition. She ran to the church to pray to God to heal her father. My father will not lose his life because of my faith in you, she pleaded. Please heal my father, God. Tamara cried and then returned home by the end of the prayers. But when Tamara got to the front of her compound, the Bible in her hand dropped on the floor when she saw her mother, Oreva, crying and wailing on the ground. There was a crowd gathered at the door of her father's room. Tamara knew the worst had happened. She rushed in to see her father, but the men in the crowd pulled her away and did not allow her enter his room to see his dead body. They had been instructed by Mazi Azazi to not let Tamara step foot into the house. In Mazi Azazi's rage and anguish, he screamed, "You, this murderer, you have succeeded in killing your father, my only brother. Because of that your useless religion, I promised I would deal with you. Leave this place before I kill you with my own bare hands, you witch." He threw her things out of the house immediately and banned her to never return home. Her mother, Oreva, could not say a word as she was engulfed in her tears, crying over her dead husband. Tamara picked up her things and her Bible. She had to leave her family's house that evening with nowhere to go. She wasn't even allowed to see her father for the last time. As she walked the streets of the village of Oke, the villagers looked upon her with scorn. They whispered amongst themselves, "Look at her. She is the daughter that caused her own father's death." "What type of a child is that?" one villager said. "I wouldn't pray for God to give me such a daughter. To fear kwa." The second villager whispered and spat on the ground. "What would it take for her to have just done the ritual? Wicked child," another villager hissed. Tamara cried as she walked away from the village with her luggage. As the village got wrapped in the blankets of night, Tamara had to sit inside the bushes, having nowhere to lay her head. She began to pray, crying, "Forgive me, Papa. Forgive me, my father. Dear God, please help me. Do not put me to shame for trusting in you with my life." But before she could finish her prayers, she heard a rustling sound from within the bush behind her. Frightened by the sound, Tamara looked behind to see what could have made that unsettling sound. To her horror, a madman jumped out of the bushes. He was staring at her with a mischievous gaze, as if about to do something terrible. Tamara was afraid and confused, not knowing what to do next, whether to run and ignite the madman's anger, or stay put and wait for him to leave. But to her dismay, the madman began forging at her with speed. Tamara, leaving her things, ran for her dear life, but unfortunately, she tripped and fell. The madman overpowered her and had his way with her that night until she fainted. Tamara woke up the next day feeling dirty and defiled, her innocence taken away in a split second by a madman. Tamara screamed to God, "My Father, why have you forsaken me?" She picked up her things and her Bible still and walked to the roadside. She could no longer continue her journey bearing the pain from her private area and the hunger she was in. She fell to the ground, not knowing what to do next. A parish priest happened to be riding his bike along that same lonely road. He was returning back to his parish in a faraway village. He stopped on sighting the poor girl sitting on the roadside. "What is your name?" he asked her. Tamara was startled. She narrated all that had happened to her to the priest. Feeling so much pity for her, he decided to help Tamara. He asked her to come with him to the next village, that he would change her life. "God still has a plan for you," he said. "Please do not be dismayed by the hardships you have endured. It does not mean that God is not with you or he has abandoned you." They both traveled a long journey on a canoe to a far village. The father, Priest Tokene, told Tamara when they got to the banks of the river that she would have to start a new life and leave all that she once knew behind. She would change her name and be presented to the parish as a totally new person. The details of her past would be kept a secret between just the both of them, and he would never share it with anyone else. God was giving her a second chance in life to start over as a new person. And that was how the priest gave her a new name, Purity. Symboling her newness and spotlessness, he gave her this name to remind her that she was not her past. She was introduced by Priest Tokene to the sisters at the convent. He told them she was found homeless on the road and they should accept her into the family as their own. The sisters immediately began to treat Purity with so much love and a warm embrace. She had never experienced such love or acceptance all her life. Tamara, now Purity, was grateful to God for changing her life despite her horrible past. Her love for God was still so strong as ever. She became the most hardworking and dedicated sister in the convent, preaching and doing the Lord's work wholeheartedly. Some days, she would sit secluded from the others, remembering her late father. With a sadness in her heart, she would say, "I trust your leading, Lord. You know best why this happened to my father, but I will trust in your word because your word is true, and that is all I believe." 1 month after, Purity has gotten accustomed to her new life in God as a devout sister, but she falls ill one day. The sisters reported her illness that did not seem to be going away to the parish priest, Dokene. He told them to get her to the parish hospital to be treated. After getting to the hospital, a series of tests was conducted on Purity, but when the test results came, the doctor informed Purity that she was pregnant, but not just that. He sadly informed her that she had contacted HIV. Purity's world was shattered in pieces. She cried, "Doctor, are you sure about this?" The doctor confirmed. She knew the madman must have infected her and she was carrying the child of a madman. Not knowing what to do, as the parish sisters were waiting outside to hear from the doctor concerning her illness and treatment, Purity had to come up with something to save herself from being removed from the parish because of her pregnancy and HIV status. She knew the parish was her only saving grace as she had no money or anywhere else to go. Purity pleaded with the doctor. Please, doctor, don't share my secret with my sisters. Give me a little time to gather myself, and I will leave the parish for good. If they know about my pregnancy and the sickness, they will have no choice than to send me away. The doctor told her that it was not a good idea. The only way she could be getting the free HIV treatment was if she was enlisted on the church's healthcare list. If not, she would have to pay for every drug she would be using to suppress the virus. But Purity pleaded even more, narrating her story to the parish doctor. The doctor felt pity on her and agreed, giving her 1 month to do what she had to do and leave the parish in order not to endanger others. Purity wiped her tears and came out of the consultation room as though nothing terrible had happened and told her sisters it was a mere fever she had that had now been treated, and they returned back to the parish. Following these devastating events, Purity was no longer attending the church masses. Sitting inside her room one night, she had reached a breaking point with God. Why do you hate me, O God? I gave my life to you, even when everyone around me thought I was foolish. My father died because of me, because of my faith in you. Now this, I am going to die soon because of this virus. What did I ever do to deserve this? In her rage, Purity made up her mind. No, I cannot die like this, while others continue to live a good life. I will not die alone. I was infected innocently, and so I will infect every single person I can find. I will not go down alone. I will be as cruel as life has been to me. This was Purity's resolution that night as she began a master plan to destroy everyone, including those in the parish. And so, the following night, Purity sneaked out of the parish, jumping over the fence, and was on her way to a juju house, the same place she would never have stepped foot in some years ago. To her, she was paying God back for giving her such a hard life. Inside the bush, in the cover of night, she took off her uniform and changed her attire so she looks like an ordinary girl. She visited the juju priest and told him what she really wanted, a charm that would make no man be able to resist her. The juju priest gave her a soap and a broom, which she would use to take her bath and wash her body with. Then, any man who sees her would follow her and lust after her uncontrollably. After taking her bath with the soap and the broom inside the bush the following night, Purity made her way to the prostitute home. She stood among the other girls, waiting on their customers. As the men approached them, all eyes were on Purity. Purity made her price so cheap, just 500 naira, so no one would have an excuse of not being able to afford her service. And so, all the men, both married men cheating on their wives and singles who were frequents of that motel, followed Purity like an hungry dog. They would queue on a long line, waiting for their turns with Purity. The other girls in the motel were enraged by how no one was coming for them anymore. One by one, all the men of the village had their way with Purity, unknown to them that they were only getting infected with the HIV virus. Back at the convent, Purity would make use of the soap, and when she walked past the brothers of the parish, they would be overtaken by a strong, uncontrollable force. They would find themselves lusting after Purity. She was happy her scheme was working. She would lead them into a secret room underground and do her business there with every single one of them, sharing the terrible virus. Purity, with a heart darkened with anger and hate, devised a method she could use to get the sisters infected also. When it was her day in the kitchen, she cut her finger and poured into a cup. Then she mixed it with the tea that the sisters would drink that morning at the dining. Unaware that their cups of tea had been contaminated, the sisters all drank their tea during the breakfast that morning. When Bible study would be going on, Purity would be busy writing down the names of all the men and women she was sure she had successfully infected. Staring at the names of the people she has destroyed in her long book was the only thing that gave her a flint of joy. So she continued to sneak out and carry out her expatriates for a cheap price so as to get every man possible. Still, it was not enough to fill the hole in her heart or get her out of the agony, fear, and brokenness she endured. It dawned on Purity that the money she was making was not enough to afford the drugs she had to pay for to help her suppress the illness. She did everything possible to remove the baby in her womb, but it never worked as she remained pregnant. Her frustration grew worse by the day when she realized she wasn't winning and the chances of her coming out of this mess alive was slim. She knew she had to try something else to survive and come up with a smarter plan that would get her enough money so she could run away from the parish and have enough to start a new life in a faraway land and be able to afford the drugs so as to extend her life a little more. Before her secret is revealed and the entire parish finds out that she had been infecting them with HIV and carrying out immoral acts with the Holy Brothers. Coming back from that day's evening mass, Purity looked through the window into a room where all the church money was kept. It was a room secured by a lock which was held only by the parish priest, Priest Tokene. Purity devised a terrible scheme to get to the key and get as much money as she wanted from the church's savings. She realized that the only man she had not gotten into her bed was the head father, Priest Tokene, and so she came up with a plan to get the priest and blackmail him into giving her all the money she would ask for before leaving the parish for good. Her time was ticking fast as the baby in her womb was growing and her pregnancy would soon begin to show. Purity had to act fast and finalize the ill judgment she had placed on everyone in the parish, and Priest Tokene was her next target. Purity meticulously laid out her next move, following each step with precision. She spent the next 3 nights bathing with her charm and prepared herself with beautiful fragrances that no man on earth could resist. One faithful night, she walked into Priest Tokene's office and without saying a word, she began to walk in front of him, her waist swinging like a pendulum before the father's eyes. She arched her backside to make sure he saw the curves of her behind as she carried out a silent seduction. That fateful night. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, share, and share your thoughts with us in the comments, and I'll see you on our next story.